Hey, hello everyone. So it's time I do a long-term review of my Vespa, the VXL150, because it's just been over a year since I bought it. But of course I haven't ridden that much. I've done just 3,722 kilometers in a year, which isn't much considering that my Royal Enfield, the Interceptor 650, that's already done over 3,000 kilometers in around 6 months, less than 6 months actually. So yeah, it's not that much. But then again, for a scooter, which is primarily for city use, I think it's okay. It's not that less. I mean, I don't take it out on highways. I mean, not for long rides anyway. So yeah. I have several different aspects of the scooter to talk about. Like performance, the design, reliability, and so on. So before I start, I think it's important that you have have my background on scooters and motorcycles, so you know where I come from. My experience with scooters is really low. I mean, this is in fact the very first scooter that I've owned, that I've ridden for any prolonged duration. Although my motorcycling experience, it's not that great, but it spans nearly 2 decades, and I've ridden quite a few different types of motorcycles. I mean, right from small 110 cc's, 125 cc's, all the way up to let's say the Harley Sportster that I've owned, 883 cc's. That's the bike I've owned for the longest duration, also the heaviest bike that I've owned. So that gives you a fair idea of my motorcycling experience. But on the scooter front, it's actually quite less. I really haven't ridden any CVT, automatic scooter, before I've owned this. Yes, I have ridden for short periods, for a few days, when I was in Thailand. I've also ridden quite a few of those Southeast Asian step-throughs, which are geared, but they also have a centrifugal clutch, so there is no clutch lever. You shift gears, you just let off the throttle as you shift. And those are also semi-step throughs, so there's no tank in front of you. The tank is under the seat. So that's my experience. So the reason I got this scooter, this Vespa, was because when I had my Sportster, the Harley, that wasn't very city friendly. It had some downtime, I'm not going to go into the details of that, but I basically needed a second bike, a second motorcycle. By the way, guys, when I say bike, motorcycle, I do consider scooters to be bikes, motorcycles. Yeah, they're a little different, yes, but I think any powered two-wheeler can be called a motorcycle. So yeah, I needed something, a second bike that was reliable, easy, and relatively cheap. So I was looking for a scooter, because why not? I mean, I didn't really want a small engined motorcycle, because I don't like having to shift through gears all the time on those small bikes. That's no fun. So I needed it to be an automatic, and scooters are so much more practical than motorcycles, right? So that's my background. That's why I got the Vespa, or let's say that's why I got a scooter, But why the Vespa? That's what I'm going to talk about in the review. So when you're through my review, you'll have a better idea of why I chose this over the many other scooters available in the Indian market. So I was riding the Harley back then, so I needed a scooter that was powerful, you know. Now all the scooters in the Indian market, they are about the same in terms of the performance. So they're all say 110, 125 cc's, most of them. There are very few 150 cc ones, this being one of them. And I think the only other one is the Aprilia SR150, which is also from the Piaggio stable. And has the same engine, in fact, but it's tuned slightly differently. I think mainly with the CVT transmission that makes that one a little more performance oriented. So I needed something that was well performing, so I pretty much had these two, the Vespa 150 and the Aprilia SR150. And I chose this because, you know, I like styling better, I like the Vespa image better, and overall the build quality seemed a little better than the Aprilia. You know, the Aprilia was very plasticky, which I didn't really like so much. Although that had advantages, it had bigger wheels, it was a little more performance oriented. So yeah, on the performance front of the Vespa, it's pretty good. See, I'm doing around 90 plus indicated downhill, but even on a flat surface, level surface, it does do 90 to 95 indicated, which I think would be around say 85 or so actually. And the acceleration also is pretty good. I mean, of course, if you compare it to most motorcycles, it's not going to be good enough, but for a scooter, it's quite good. And compared to a small motorcycle, you know, or with a similar engine size, the good thing is you don't have to shift gears. You just the throttle and go, and it keeps going. On a small motorcycle, just to get to say 50 or 60 kilometers per hour, you need to shift so many times. So this is one of the short highway stretches I have on my commute, and it is pretty comfortable, the Vespa. I mean, it can do some decent speeds, not very fast, not above 100, but still okay in these scenarios. But yeah, even at say 80 or 90, you need to be really careful because it gets quite twitchy. Now if you're an experienced motorcyclist, this probably won't bother you. It's not that bad. But if you're a beginner at these speeds, it might get a little unnerving, because you know the vehicle is small, it's a short wheelbase, the wheels are small, so yeah, it gets a bit twitchy, but nothing that bad. I mean, even I can handle it with one hand, but I wouldn't let go of the handlebars totally at these speeds. So So yeah, performance and handling. Mind you, this is not currently the fastest scooter in the Indian market. I think that is still the TVS N-Top, which is a 125cc amongst traditional petrol-powered scooters. I think the Ather 450X, that's an electric one, that's even faster. So on performance, how would I rate it? It's not the fastest, but I'm okay with it because it has some other features which I really like compared to, say, the TVS N-Top. But then again, you know, the performance differences in this range, even if that is faster than this, it may not be that noticeable, you know. The differences may be just in fractions of a second, say to 60 kilometers per hour or so. So am I satisfied with the performance? For the size of the scooter and for my needs, which is, you know, primarily city use, I am quite satisfied, yeah. Now, I definitely wouldn't like to do any long rides with it on the highways. That would not be fun because, you know, having the throttle fully open constantly doing 90 or 95 or even less, actually, you know, not indicated, that's no fun, and it might be too taxing for the engine also. By the way, guys, if you're not from India, there's something else I need to talk about. This model, the Vespa VXL150, this is made in India, not in Italy, and this is different from the models that you get, say, in the US or most of Europe. There you get the Primavera, which is the 150cc one, and there are bigger ones, the GTS 300 and so on. I don't think, yeah, you do get smaller ones also. You get some 50cc ones. I don't know what the models are for those, but yeah, the 150cc, that's the Primavera in other markets, and those, as far as I know, those are made in Italy. But this one, to save costs, they make this in India, and it is quite different from the Primavera. For one, this is not fuel injected, it's a carbureted engine. But now, from this year onwards, in India, I think they have a fuel injected now, because they have the new emission standards, the Bharat Stage 6 standards, which does not let you use carburetors anymore. But they dropped the engine size to 149 cc's. This is 154, I think, 154 point something. So yeah, they've actually gone down in displacement, and even with injection, the power and torque figures are lower than this one. So that's a bummer. I'm kind of happy I got this older version, even though it's carbureted. So about the performance and handling, I can't really compare it with other scooters because, as I said, I don't really have much experience with scooters. I did ride the Ather 450 somewhat recently, you know, less than a year back. I had a pretty good test ride of it. You can see that video there. So compared to that, yeah, that one I think had a little better performance, and handling was also pretty good. So this model that they make in India, this is the VXL150, They also have an SXL150, which is similar to the Vespa Sprint that you get in the other markets, with the rectangular headlamp. And this is the one with the round headlamp. You also get the VXL and the SXL ones in some other countries. I've seen them in some of the South American countries. I don't remember which one exactly. And also in some of the Eastern European countries, I think. I'm not sure where all of them are made, if they are all made in India and exported elsewhere. But for sure they're not made in Italy, because they make the other models there, like the Primavera and so on. Yeah, I often have to use full throttle on this, but that's okay. I don't mind, because you know, the throttle travel isn't that less. I mean, it isn't that much. It's quite less actually. So you don't have to twist your wrist a lot to get from you know, fully closed to fully open. Now, when I'm talking about the performance, I would also like to talk about the brakes, and that comes more into the safety category. Brakes are quite good. You have a disc, a bi-bray disc set up at the front, although the rear is a drum, but it's still pretty good for a vehicle this size and weight. The rear grabs pretty well, and the best thing is the front has ABS. So it's a single channel ABS only on the front. There is no ABS on the rear. And I really like having that safety aspect. Now, I think none of the other scooters in the Indian market, except the 150 Vespas and the Aprilias, none of the others have ABS as far as I know. And although some may say they're not really, I mean, ABS is not really necessary on small scooters because they're not going that fast anyway, I think it is necessary, because when you're riding on these small wheels, you know, even 80 kilometers per hour is quite fast, and if you have to do a panic braking, it's quite likely that you will lock up. And if you do on these small wheels, you know, you go down immediately. That being said, the feedback from the brakes isn't that great. So I haven't come to the point of locking up yet. I have not triggered the ABS, so yeah, suppose if the ABS was not there, would I be comfortable braking it to the limit, you know, where I would potentially lock up, and then I would have to, you know, rely on my ability to release the brakes just before that lockup, you know, gets me down. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the brakes have that much feedback for me to have that confidence. But since I have ABS, you know, I have that peace of mind there. Because, you know, the thing is with the Indian government rules, they require ABS on motorcycles or two-wheelers 150 cc's and above. So Piaggio was kind of forced to put ABS on this model because it was 150 cc's, and all other scooters being smaller in displacement, they're not obliged to put ABS on them. And India being such a price sensitive country, with especially with you know, smaller scooters, manufacturers don't want to put on that additional cost that would make the scooters more expensive. Do I miss the ABS on the rear? Not really, because this being such a small two-wheeler, I can very well control the rear sliding. In fact, it's good to not have it sometimes, because I can slide the rear and have some fun. But like I said, I still haven't really tested the ABS on the front. I haven't really come across a scenario where I had to use it. I mean, where the ABS had to kick in. So again, I can't really say how good the ABS is, and whether or not it would really work in preventing a lockup, and without compromising the braking too much. Because sometimes when an ABS goes off on a motorcycle, you feel like you don't have any brakes anymore. So there are some issues with the ABS, and I'm going to talk about that later when I come to the reliability aspect of it. So that's all I have for performance and handling. Let's move to the design and the features.